Thanks for clicking the video. Please subscribe and leave comments below with questions or topics you want me to cover in future videos. Thanks. Now, as some of you may know, I lived in China for 10 years before moving to Japan. So today, I'm going to cover Chinese dating culture and explore what it looks like in modern China and their contemporary society. We will also, in that same framework, look at what it's like trying to date as a foreigner in China, as opposed to when they date within their own culture, i.e., two Chinese people dating. Now, I don't really want to cover the next two topics, so I'm going to very briefly touch on them. I guess it's something that people also expect to hear in videos like this. And those are the topics of single dogs and leftover women and marriage markets. That is not the main focus of this video, so I'm going to cover them very quickly, but they actually do have some insight as to how the Chinese dating scene operates. So first and foremost, regarding marriage markets, yes, they actually do exist. I have actually been to one personally in Shanghai in my first week in China, and I need to say this was accidental. I had no intention of actually going to a marriage market. Essentially, the group of teachers that I was training with stumbled upon a park in Shanghai where there were just a collection of parents and grandparents sitting together in an area of the park. They all had an umbrella opened up in front of them, sitting on the ground, and they were using the umbrella as a canvas to display the profile picture and the information of the person in their family that they were trying to marry off. Typically next to the profile picture, the information that the families display are stuff like age, star sign, salary, and to be honest with you, information that Westerners would not really care about in some cases, but this information is stuff that Chinese people consider important when determining compatibility. Many Chinese people still go to a fortune teller to see how aligned they are with prospective partners, and things like star sign, zodiac year, etc. are used for these readings. The pressure from family to get married and have children is very real in China, and this marriage market is a manifestation of it. When family members get sick and tired of waiting, or don't have faith their daughter, son, grandson, or granddaughter will be able to do it without help, you will find that they take matters into their own hands. I don't agree with this, but it is a very real thing that happens. You might wonder why grandparents are present in this equation, but there's a simple reason. Grandparents do a lot of the child raising in traditional Chinese families, while the parents work to bring in income. So you'll find 3 generations of Chinese family members living in the same house, and the grandparents are the ones doing most of the child care. So the grandparents essentially see this as also part of their duties, finding their granddaughter or grandson a partner. Now, if you happen to be a foreigner and you think that you are allowed to take part in this market, it probably won't go very well for you, even if you do speak very good Chinese. No, it's not impossible. I'm sure there's some unicorn cases where foreigners might have attended a marriage market and come out as one of the people that were successful, but to be quite frank, that's a hell of an uphill battle. You need to understand that this marriage market thing is inherently a traditional thing, which means that these are inherently traditional Chinese families, and those families generally are not very open-minded about their children or grandchildren dating and marrying a foreigner. Now, with that being said, let's quickly touch on the concept of single dogs, and leftover women. This actually ties into marriage markets and Chinese dating culture as a whole. So it is somewhat important, but to be honest, I am not a fan of this concept at all. So I'll cover it very briefly. Let me repeat that this is not a concept I agree with or support. I am simply presenting the facts because they're relevant. Essentially, if you have reached a certain age as a man and you are unmarried and don't have children, you are a single dog. The age may vary depending on how militant your family or the culture in your city is, but it's roughly around 28-ish that you start being viewed as a single dog. For the ladies, the term is leftover woman, but the premise is the same. A lady that is unmarried and without children, they are being viewed as a leftover woman around 26-ish. Marriage markets are typically filled with families of men and women that fall into those two categories. Now, you might think to yourself that trying to rush into marriage is a recipe for disaster, and honestly, that is something I largely agree with. But sprinting to the finish line is the Chinese courtship way. One of my really good Chinese friends is currently still married to a man that proposed to her the first time they met, and they have 2 kids. And to be clear, she is obscenely rich. So this was not a financial decision, and her parents were not pressuring her because her younger brother had already gotten married and produced grandchildren. So just keep that in mind. Now, before we get into the details of this, let me just get the disclaimer out of the way. We live in a largely globalized world at this point in time. Of course, there are going to be aspects and couples and people that don't follow this culture or trend, even if they're Chinese. Obviously, those people exist, but they are a minority group, and we are focusing on the majority dating culture. With that being said, here is how Chinese relationships generally work. I am not joking when I say it's a sprint to the finish line. They move at light speed. How you meet is not important, but basically your family will source options for you if you don't get up and get moving personally. And once your family sources an option they take a liking to, you might be browbeaten into going along with it. So it's honestly best to just get out there ASAP if you want to choose your own partner, or if you lack the courage to stand up to your family and rock the boat by telling them no. Let's be clear, men and women alike get railroaded into marriage in China. This is not an oppress women type situation, though I imagine they probably have to suffer through it more often because they are less willing to go to war with their family to avoid it. And just so we are clear, from what I have seen, it's not the father and grandfathers railroading their daughters and granddaughters. It's the mothers and grandmothers primarily pressuring the daughters and granddaughters into this. Contrary to popular belief, speaking from my personal experience, I actually polled people. A lot of Chinese men prefer to have daughters. And when they do have daughters, they spoil them rotten, which is giving rise to the little empress phenomenon that is currently taking place in China. But that is a topic for another time. But back to how relationships develop, I'm not joking, it really is light speed. The moment interest is expressed, they love bomb each other from the start to the finish line. If you are drowning in messages from a Chinese person, it means they are serious about pursuing a relationship with you. If answers are slow or sporadic, that's a good indicator that you ain't the one, chief, and they are just being polite. Now, whereas in the West, a lot of relationships are gradual progression to milestones like boyfriend, moving in together, engagement, meeting the parents, marriage, children, that kind of thing. Chinese relationships basically have these marriage, children, and logistic conversations immediately. The moment you are having any serious thoughts of dating or moving forward, these conversations are going to immediately be on the table. They are not trying to see where things go in general. They are trying to move into the end game as soon as possible. This means they will be pushing to set up a meeting with their partner and their parents when they have decided it is truly time to move into the end game. If a Chinese partner is trying to introduce you to their parents, it means they plan to marry you imminently. Not in the distant future. I'm talking damn near as soon as they can organize a wedding, right after the meeting. Meeting the parents is the make or break stage. If the meeting goes well, you are pretty much already married. It's just a formality at this point. And trying to break things off after meeting the parents is extremely problematic. So, meet the parents with caution. If it doesn't go well, that's just a different kind of hell. One of my Chinese colleagues was absolutely crushed when her long-term boyfriend took her to meet his family and they rejected her and spent every waking moment of their lives after meeting her systematically destroying and ending the relationship. The poor girl was devastated, and her boyfriend's family literally spent every waking moment in his ear, threatening to cut him off, disown him, just absolutely destroying his mental health. I had another colleague that just has to suffer her mother-in-law from now until the end of time because she doesn't want to leave her partner, and her partner is actually brave enough to tell his mom, accept it. I love her. I'm not leaving her. She's not going anywhere. They also have a child together now. So, in a nutshell, traditional Chinese courtship is advance full speed ahead until it's time to meet the parents, pass the parent check, and you have arrived at the finish line. Now, all of this was explained with the assumption that the two people involved in these scenarios are both Chinese. But what does that mean for foreigners dating Chinese people? I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be short and sweet. Honestly, it's not very different. First, we need to understand that as a foreigner, you are just straight up disqualified from the vast majority of dating in general. An entire section of the population is just unavailable to you, and it is what it is. Either these Chinese people are traditional and have no interest in foreigners, or they are very aware of the complexities that will arise from dating foreigners and cannot be bothered to deal with it. Now, most of these complexities I speak of have to do with the family. If Chinese families reject prospective Chinese partners so viciously, like I described earlier, what do you think the process would be like trying to bring a foreigner home? Many Chinese people know very clearly what it would look like trying to bring a foreigner home, and they simply just don't want the smoke. And who can blame them? Now, if they are up for the smoke, or their family is open-minded, you just become an honorary Chinese person. You are going to move to the finish line at light speed and have a traditional Chinese wedding, and now you will feel the same pressure to produce grandchildren that your partner was experiencing. If you don't even want to live with your own parents, I don't suggest marrying into a Chinese family, because there is a good chance you will be living with your in-laws at some point or indefinitely. It just comes with the territory. So, in short, you're just going to be basically be treated like a Chinese partner and everything good and bad that entails. Now, if you're one of those foreigners that found a Chinese partner where the family is super, super open-minded or even influenced by Western culture, you are one of the unicorns I speak of, where it will just be like dating in the West. That largely only exists in Chinese families that don't live in China, okay? I'm talking about mainland Chinese people that were born, raised, and still live in China.